think the most interesting part for those who listens to us and for many companies who are producing high-tech technologies right now is a high-risk systems. And
Yeah.
the most difficult part for them is to understand whether they are a
Yes.
high-risk system or a minimal risk. Because
Yeah.
if you are a high-risk system, you get slammed with compliance. You have to make risk assessments.
You have to register. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
human oversight and mandatory database check-ins. This is kind of complicated and difficult because, for example, we've been talking to the guys on the other podcast episode, previous episode, we've been discussing e-commerce recommendation system, and they take into account products, different products, and it can go as far as recommending someone something based on their purchasing patterns or
Sure.
with that and things like that. And I've been thinking about this dream idea for online shopping when you stand in front of your camera, in front of your laptop, and you trying different clothes on yourself. And is it a high risk system because it have to scan my body type, it
Ah,
have to scan, understand who am I, my gender, how I look, how tall am I, and apply the clothes depending on how I look, how I stand. And people were discussing these ideas right now on the conferences and the new ways of online shopping. But at the same time, how hard for them it will be to implement these tools given the new
yeah.
regulations.
My best guess now is that this would not be high risk. And the reasons are the following. One, they make explicit exceptions for, so you're talking about biometric. They call it biometric identification, biometric, taking the way your face, facial recognition, whatever, even
Mhm.
supposedly ears are a really good way, but that's maybe from watching Person of Interest. I don't know if that's really true. But yeah, then they know what you look like, they know your gender, they know all this stuff. So first, GDPR will certainly be relevant because the service doing this will be probably storing, or maybe not, maybe but you're consenting to a service that is doing
Mhm.
precisely this biometric thing. So this is fundamentally different than I just go for a walk. I go out with my wife and somebody has these cameras and they know what club we went into to go to a jazz concert, and they can track us and whatever. So that's the one aspect. And the other thing that's mentioned is, what about facial recognition on your phone?
Yes.
Yeah, this is explicitly excluded because the idea is that, hey, this is part of the service that you've signed up for. You know that you're doing this. It's not, I want to get a bank loan. Do they want to know what my gym membership is? Not intrusive things for something that's not explicitly part of the service that you as a customer are trying to do. So, I mean, this case, and it's really, I think what we're going to see, and this is the challenge, I think that for companies to be ready, but not overreact. So the government, the nation level bodies that will be really implementing this, they have until this August to get set up. So
Mhm.
if you really want to take chances, you can get away with, which I wouldn't recommend, but you could say, hey, they're not even going to be active until August. And this high risk legislation doesn't go into effect until February. What I think we all know, not just from AI, but from IT, if you know you're going to have to make some big changes, if you wait till the last minute,
Mhm.
it's going to be more buggy. It's going to be 10 times as expensive. You're going to have people, yeah. So I think taking a pragmatic approach, you have an inventory, like these e-commerce companies, they have a position ready. They say, hey, I don't think it's high risk. These are my reasons, right? Then you wait. And when I worked with regulators before, they're reasonable people. Yeah, they're tough, but they want to work with the businesses. So the worst thing you can do, so I heard this from, I forget her name. She was one of the top risk people at Deutsche Bank that presented at a town hall. It's not the crime, it's the cover up. The worst thing you can do is say, I didn't know there was an AI Act. Oh, really? There's regulated. I had no,
Mhm.
I mean, come on, if you're in this business, it's your responsibility. So it's best effort. I think the main thing is to show that, hey, you're trying to do the right thing as a company. To start with, if you have some reasons, then just go with it that you think, hey, this isn't high risk.
Is there a way for a company, like a simple, uh, you know, uh, a simple answer how they can understand whether they are a high risk or a minimal risk, or whether they should take actions, or is it a tricky one and they should talk to people like us to make the inventory assessments because, for example, they might be thinking that they have minimal risk implementation
Yeah.
and things like that. And then if you go deeper inside the algorithm, then we might discover that there is some kind of algorithm that take into consideration some specifics that maybe like 10% of your business of your product, but they can be marked as a high risk and you don't even know that. Is it possible?
Yeah, so I think there are two things that businesses should really be concerned about. One is missing stuff, like you're saying. And there, I think you can do this also it's amazing what a difference it makes if you actually read through the regulation and not just reading, I try to really go into detail in my blog post, but that's also not enough just to read what people think the regulation means. So I think there, if it's a big company, look, they already have legal compliance at Allianz. There's this whole AI governance team that we work with. If you're a smaller company, it's a question, do you want to? Here, I think just going with a law firm is not a bad idea, but I think not enough unless you have a law firm that has people that have been working in AI for years, because there are these gray areas. What does even this definition of an AI system mean in practice? And how would you interpret that? And here I really think, okay, this is, I think, my pitch for us as MKDev to support companies, that the EU Commission, they turned to AI experts when they came up with this regulation. You as a business, I think you should also have somebody that's really worked in AI helping you along the way, and not just somebody that's come to it, not just a lawyer, not just somebody that worked in data and has read the regulation, but really understands it. And that's actually now I'm up to three things, but I'm still on the first one of why you should have this expertise. It's not just recognizing, hey, is this high risk? Is this minimal risk? Is this prohibited? Then assuming that you have some remediation practices, assume that you realize, oh, you know what? We haven't checked if we're discriminating against women or against people. Then you have to change your implementation. And then you need to either explain to your tech team, but they missed it in the first place. So that's where I think having people that like what we offer at MKDev, that don't just understand the regulation, but hey, what does this mean on the technical level? You know, what are the things when you're developing your AI that you need to bake in? You just have to be doing this from the beginning, right? Otherwise, it's going to be, like we said before, huge costs, delays. If you have to add this stuff at the end when you realize, oh, whoops, this is high risk AI, we're going to get in trouble, you know, up to these huge fines, 5% of global turnover. So, but there are other things that you can just add on later if you do stuff well. Actually, this is something Kirill and I worked with a bit with setting up certain integration with services. If you write your code doing some basic things, but then not everybody's doing, then you can add on like this logging and monitoring and some of these other requirements. As long as you set up your code, you do some important, maybe not so basic things to start with. Then if it turns out, oh yeah, we are high risk, then some of these things you can just add on later. And then you're saving yourself money. You're only doing this if you have to. Things like data quality, really understanding what's the data you're coming from. This you have to bake in from the beginning. And if you're not doing this already, this is going to be expensive. And especially if you just bolt on some data quality afterwards, then you're going to have all this friction because you just added some extra layers on top, rather than baking this in of the whole way your data team works.